Welcome to the Saturday morning call. It's Friday evening in the U.S. and Saturday morning here in Thailand. Uh, Today, we're going to be speaking about the first jhana. Actually, we can mention a bit about the other jhanas too, but the primary thing is the first jhana. That in fact, the place to start off this is Sutta number 36. And that the story is the story of the rose apple tree. And that basically the story is about that the Buddha had tried everything. He was really, really dedicated, and over a 6-year period of time, he went to all of the major teachers in India. And the first thing that he tried was mental states called the jhanas, and that he was so good at it with the first teacher, whose name we have, which is Kalakalama, I believe was his name, and that the Buddha was so good at these jhanas. Actually, then he was just Sakyamuni, that they wanted him to become the teacher. But he mentioned that what he was getting was not what he was looking for. And so he went to another teacher named Rama Ramaputta, and that teacher had died, but that all the instructions had been left with his son, and so he practiced that and was able to get it. And so then they wanted him to be the teacher there, and he said, no, this jhana is not what I'm looking for. And so he went then to Natanataputta, who is known nowadays as Mahavira of the Jains, where they were practicing austerities with the idea that by having good behavior now, or sila now, you're not creating any new bad karma, but that old bad karma still would affect people so that they still had dukkha, and therefore they wanted to burn off the old bad karma through austerities, self-flagellation, and other things, not recognizing, in fact, that by they weren't burning off old bad karma, they were just creating new old bad karma by the austerities themselves. And so the Buddha had done so well at that he was actually killing himself, starvation and other austerities. And so at one time he fell into a creek and he couldn't get up. He was too weak. And so he recognized then that whatever he was doing, he wasn't even strong enough to get out of a creek. How could he be strong enough to actually do the practice to get the results that he was looking for? And what he was looking for was more of a permanent or ongoing sense of well-being, as opposed to the jhanas were all temporary. And that most likely the reason that was happening was because by practicing the higher jhanas, one was not getting a solid foundation in the first jhana, so that when one left all these higher jhanas, they came back into hindrances in an ordinary state of mind. And so as he crawled out of the creek that he had gotten himself stuck in, he pondered and he realized that, oh no, this time of the rose apple tree when he was younger was in fact the path to enlightenment. That being able to sustain, to apply the mind and sustain it into this first jhana was in fact what he was looking for, and that the secret behind that is the point of that what he was looking for was the end of dissatisfaction, and that the word dukkha has an opposite, and that opposite word is sukha. And sukha actually has the higher quality of satisfaction. And if we can get our minds into a state of satisfaction and sustain that satisfaction, then that's what the Buddha was looking for, and this is what wound up being his teaching. And yet, because the higher jhanas are listed in the suttas on a regular basis, most of the Western mentality has gotten the idea that, oh, we like high numbers. We like high numbers in bank accounts. We like high numbers in voting. We like high numbers in IQ. We like high numbers all over the place, and therefore we're going to like high numbers in jhana. And not getting the point that the higher jhanas is not what the Buddha was looking for. And in fact, you cannot sustain these high jhanas. One of the jokes was that there was a couple of these Westerners who were practicing these things, and this guy was driving down the road, driving his teacher, and he was saying, okay, now I'm in first jhana. Now I'm in second jhana a little while later. And then later he would say, now I'm in third jhana. And my response to those kind of things is that if I was a cop, I would stop them and bust them for jhana while driving, because you cannot live your life while you're in these higher jhanas. The mind is not fit for work in these higher jhanas. It's too quiet. And so getting on with it, there's another story in that same sutta, by the way, where you find the rose apple tree, and it's in sutta number 36, where the Buddha talks about seclusion in the sense of getting away from it all. First off, getting away from driving for sure. And second off, getting away from all kinds of input. And he gives a story about the log in the bog, or if a log is soaking wet in a pond or something, then it's not fit for work. It's not fit for setting the log on fire. The Buddha talks about that a fire maker. Now, in the time of the Buddha, they had actually a profession of people who could make fire. And so the question is can someone who wants to set that log on fire, set it on fire while it's in the bog? And the answer is no, because it's wet. It's saturated with all kinds of things. And if you drag it up on the shore, then it will start to dry out for the sun on the log as well as the gravity, but it's still not able to set it on fire until it's out of the water for a while. And this is an important point that we need to, in fact, practice on a regular basis. We need to keep coming out of the bog over and over again to get the mind to dry out. Now, it's probably not necessary to go in retreat for long, long periods of time. I know that in Thailand they have the idea that putting the monk in the back of the wat for about 3 months will do. And in the Tibetan tradition, they will set the guy up into a cave on the side of a mountain for as long as 3 years. That's the typical time to get away from it all. However, there is the story of the monk who, in fact, I think that it's a Western monk, that they left up there. They would bring him food, and after the end of the 3-year period, they brought him down from the mountain, and on the way down, the bumpy road and the car was too much for him. He couldn't handle that. And so he asked them to stop the car and so that he could get out, because he didn't even want to ride the car back up to the mountain. He'd walk, thank you. Now that means then that his mind was not even fit to ride in a car. How could his mind be fit for living one's life? There's got to be some sort of balance in there. And so you can think of it then as kind of getting away from it all so that we can get dried out enough to get the mind working correctly. And then we just keep it sustained in that state. All right? So now let's talk about the factors of first jhana. One of the most important factors, in fact, the first factor, and without this one, there's no place else to go. And that is that the mind has to be free from hindrances. Now, the hindrances, there's actually listed 5 of them, but in other suttas, there are more than that. That in fact, fear is one of them that's listed, but doubt and restlessness of mind, worry, wanting something, especially wanting things that you don't have, putting up with stuff that you don't want to put up with, having a mind that's drowsy or sleepy. These are the 5 hindrances, and that any time that one of the 5 hindrances is in the mind is really not fit for work. We have to actually get the mind out of unwholesome thoughts into wholesome thoughts. That's the first item on the list. Now, the way that we get that is by applying the mind to the wholesome. Now, the other or optional way of approaching this is to talk about it in the sense of the Four Noble Truths. That this was the main teaching of the Buddha. He didn't actually say that I teach first jhana. What he said was that I teach dukkha, dukkha nirodha, which means having a mind free from dukkha, which is analogous to say having a mind that's free from obstructions, having the mind free from hindrances, and having the mind free from dissatisfaction. And so the method that we use to do this is actually the Eightfold Noble Path, most specifically the parts of the path that have to do with cleaning out the mind. And that the Buddha talks about it in the sense of right viewing, right looking comes first. We have to actually look and see what is in our mind, our thoughts. Now, I've seen on Discord quite often that seems to be the major issue is people are not paying attention to what they're saying. They'll come on to Discord and complain and not even recognizing that they're complaining. They're such in a complaining state that they don't even know that they're actually practicing what they've always been practicing, complaining and staying in a negative state. And so what I would recommend for any and everyone who is posting on Discord to remember to look at what you're posting before you hit that send key and then rearrange it so that it's going to be more wholesome minded. This would be the first step then for gaining a mind that is free from dukkha, is to stop repeating unwholesome thoughts. Stop repeating complaints and complaining. Stop looking for something wrong and start recognizing that everything is okay the way that it is. All of the problems of the world, all of our cares, all of our worries, all of our desires is stuff that we're making up. And we've gotten quite a habit of doing that. So you can imagine then that the habits is like a spring on a door to freedom. You open the door, but you have to prop it open. You have to keep it open. If you don't, then the habits are going to spring the door back closed again. And so we have to then take the right noble effort to open the door yet once again. And then what's going to happen? It's going to close again. This is the same thing as that looking at the log in the bog with the fire. You set it on fire, but it won't sustain. The fire goes back out because the hindrances are right there in the wood. And so never mind, start the fire again. In fact, keep the bog out of the bog, which means keeping the mind out of unwholesome states for longer and longer periods of time. But when the mind, when we forget to look at what's happening in the mind, the old habits will come back. The door will slam again because it's spring-loaded with these old bad habits, old sankaras, all the stuff. And in fact, the way to look at it is that the mind, as the child develops and grows up, we have neural pathways that become neurological highways because so many neurons are devoted to that kind of thinking. And so we're kind of going against the grain, but over time we can build up new neurons and have new pathways so that we can begin to sustain the mind in a good, wholesome, healthy state. Why? Because we're no longer finding troubles and problems. We're no longer trying to fix things that we think are broken. We're no longer wanting stuff that we don't have, because in fact we do that because we're dissatisfied with the way things are. So we have to actually practice over and over again, getting ourselves into a state of satisfaction. Now, the Eightfold Noble Path that we're talking about here, the Noble Path, then starts with right view, looking and seeing what's in the mind, and then making a change to it with right noble effort. And we have to remember to keep doing this over and over and over again until we begin to get the mind, let us say, beginning to change our attitude. From the attitude of I need something, I want something, I've got to fix something, into the attitude of everything is okay, everything is fine. And so basically, according to Sutta number 48, the first step on the path then is when the student actually has the idea that no matter what happens, no matter how obstructed the mind becomes, we can clean it out. How do we know that? It's because we've done it over and over and over again. Even though the mind will swing spring-loaded back into the habits, we can still see that and then make a change again and come out of that. And so that first knowledge then is the knowledge that I can, at least momentarily, become free from all of the hindrances and all of the problems of life. Wow, what a relief it is that we can, in fact, do that. We can apply the mind and keep applying the mind over and over again to come out of our hindrances, to come out of our unwholesome thoughts, and in a way to come out of our negative attitude, the victim's attitude, and come out of our feelings of being hurt, being sorry, being afraid, being angry, and all of those kind of feelings, because those feelings are just habits. When we get angry, we should recognize, oh, I've been here before, been there, done that. Why should I be angry? I can take a breath and change my attitude, change my mind that everything is okay. If we keep doing that, practicing being safe. This is one of the qualities of doing your practice in seclusion, is that it's not dangerous, that you're in a safe environment. So I invite right now everybody to look around and recognize that in reality, you're probably safe, more than likely. And if you're in a dangerous situation, I would recommend that you get out of it as quickly as you can and get yourself into a safe environment. So that once you're in a safe environment, now your reality is that you're in a safe environment. That means now, if the environment is safe, the only danger is that which is coming from your own mind. And then we can change that. We can change our environment to be in a safe place, and then we can change our mind state so that it's also in a safe place, and we can come then to the state of safety and security. But in fact, that's one of them, is possibly the only reason why anybody would seek psychotherapy, is because people are just in a state of panic. They're not settled down. They're not feeling safe. And we're all looking for a state of safety and security as a foundation for our own well-being. And so the whole point then of the teaching of the Buddha is that we have to come out of the hindrances that are hindering us from feeling really good. So, how do we do that? We actually talk ourselves into it. We actually do things to gladden the mind. We tell ourselves everything is all right. There's really no danger here, no problems, no worries. An example of someone who is about to lose his house because the landlord is raising the rent, and now he's all worried, and it's a month away before he has to leave the house. But in fact, if he would say, right now, everything is okay, and he would practice that for the 30 days, then when he loses his house to live in, he can still have that thought of, everything is okay, everything is going to work out, not a problem. Now, if he goes looking for property, looking for a house, in a state of panic, the landlord's probably not wanting to rent to him. But if he goes in a state of friendliness and okayness, then more than likely he's going to be able to find housing. So in fact, we create our problems for ourselves. So, by gladdening the mind, by gladdening the thoughts that we can then begin to change our attitude that everything is okay. And by changing our attitude, our feelings will follow along. We will begin to start feeling the way that our mind is being, let us say, reprogrammed, so that we begin to feel safe, secure, comfortable, and with that will bring satisfaction. Now, safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfaction, that's actually, if you're in a state of satisfaction, voila, you have actually now accomplished in this very moment that which the Buddha was teaching all these 2,500 years. That's the only thing that he teaches, is getting your mind out of a state of dissatisfaction into a state of satisfaction. So, if we can do that over and over again, then we begin to get successful at it. We know that we can do this. We know that no matter how obstructed the mind gets, we can, in fact, talk ourselves back out of it, come back into a state of well-being, come back into a state of satisfaction, and actually feel successful at doing that. We can become successful. That really changes our attitude into a state of success. We have to keep practicing this over and over and over again. And as we develop this, we've developed that state of not just satisfaction, but success, which has a quality of wow. Wow, this is so good. We like it. We really like that state of everything is okay, not a problem in the world, and that we can invent this, or we can create it at any moment of time. All we have to do is remember to change the mind. That's all there is to it. Very simple operation, but it has to be practiced over and over and over again. And when we get into this state, this wow state, where everything is really great, then the Pali word for this is the state of piti. We can call it bliss, if you like. We can give a definition to the word bliss. Or we can use the word exuberant or enthusiastic or a state of, wow, isn't this great? This is the state then that completes all of the parts of the factors of the first jhana, is being in this state of, wow, wow, this is so good. All right, so each one of you right now can practice that. Wow, things are so great. Everything is all right. We live in a paradise. This becomes, put your mind in this kind of a heavenly state to where there's no problems, there's no worries, everything is okay, everything is nice. This is now, after all of this practice, we begin to see that this is in fact what the first jhana is really all about. But that wow state moves up and down over a course of time. But the one thing that keeps remaining quite steady is this sense of safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied. We want to be able to bring that up and practice it often enough so that we can begin to sustain it. That's basically all there is to the first jhana. Now, many centuries after the Buddha, in later literature, there was a concept that has been translated into English as access concentration. Has anybody here ever heard of the word access concentration? It's actually not a very good translation. That is, what we mean by access concentration is that this mind that is in a wow state is available because the mind is actually free from hindrances. The hindrances, or the unwholesome thoughts, is what keeps us from being in that state. And if you can come to just the point of not having any unwholesome thoughts, then we're in a state that can access this first jhana. But in fact, we could say that ordinary people have the point of being able to try to put the world that they live in, the society that they live in, their environment. If we could get the environment straightened out, then I can feel really good. And so people do that. They go out, they try to form relationships, they try to buy products that they want, they go try to get a new job, all kinds of things that we do, so that when we're successful, we have that wow sensation. But the circumstances are going to change. In fact, the mind is going to slip right back into hindrances quickly. Imagine that you were on a football team or something and you just scored and everybody's elated, everybody is jumping around and very, very happy. But a moment later, you're back in the fight again. We don't spend much time celebrating. So, what we need to do then is to start practicing that sustained quality of that wow sensation, that everything really is okay, that we'll work this out, no problems, we've got it made. This is in fact these qualities of the first jhana, and that's really all that we need. Now, there's a sutta number 19 where the Buddha talks about this, what is wholesome thought and unwholesome thought. And the story there is the story of the cowherd. He's got about maybe half a dozen, maybe a dozen cows. He's not a cowboy out on the range with herding thousands, but he's got his little group, and he's going to take them out for grazing. But along the way, he has to pass through the village. And what his job is with the village, he's got a stick, and any cow who tries to eat something from one of the food stalls or running into the laundry or trampling over a child or something like that, he's got to prevent these cows from doing that. And so he'll whack them and get them into shape. And so as he progresses through the village, he keeps his cattle in line. But once he gets out to the pasture, he can let the cows graze in the pasture, in the rice stubble or whatever. He can now relax and just keep an eye on the cows. So in the beginning, when we're practicing, we have to take the effort to keep the mind out of the woods, to keep the mind out of the garbage, to keep the mind from stealing food, to keep the mind on a steady course, so that we have one wholesome thought after another after another. And once we get the mind into a state of one wholesome thought, one happy thought, one after another, after another, after another, then we can finally relax. And in fact, the way to relax is beginning to have even gaps within the wholesome thoughts. This is actually now the first jhana. It's a relaxed state. You don't have to worry about looking at whether the thought is wholesome or not, because we're out of the danger. We know that this thought is wholesome, and so we can really, really relax. Now, I'm bringing in another quality. Let's review for just a bit and talk about these factors. We've talked about 5 of them so far, and we're about to enter 6. The first one is free from hindrances, free from obstructions, free from unwholesome thoughts, free from the attitude of needing something, free from the feelings. Okay, so this is the first one, is that we get out of this state of want. Get out of it and get into the state of everything's okay. The next factor that we're looking at is that we use the mind to apply it, to continue to apply, to apply, to apply, to repeat. And then, actually, after a while, we can get this going. Then we want to sustain it. So applied and sustained thought, along with freedom from hindrance. That's when we develop then this sukha. The sukha is a feeling, and the feeling is the feeling of safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied. And when we feel safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied repeatedly over and over again, then we add the 5th element, this piti, this wow feeling. Everything is really okay. All right? And now the 6th item is the relaxation, that we can become completely relaxed because we're in this state. Now, mostly in the suttas, the jhanas have these first 5 factors, but in some of the suttas, they actually have the 6th one, which is relaxation. Now, I would like also now to introduce anapanasati as the Buddha's method for practicing both the Eightfold Noble Path, and also anapanasati is based around, guess what? The first jhana. The Anapanasati Sutta, with all of its facts and features, is designed to get the mind into the first jhana. Now, the Anapanasati Sutta actually operates with the 4 foundations of mindfulness, or let us call it the 4 bases. Now, the bases actually are what we are, our sum total of our existence, in the sense that we have a body, we have feelings, we have mental states and attitudes, and then we have mental objects, or our thoughts. These 4 foundations are what we're working with, and we want to get all 4 of them correct. And that the item of the body is that the body becomes relaxed. So with adding the body relaxation, adding the feeling of being satisfied and successful, adding the attitude of the well-being, everything is okay, everything is fine, and adding the 4th item of the thoughts being all wholesome, now we have fulfilled all of the factors of the first jhana. So, now that we've got it, how do we keep it going? Over time, it actually is easier to do once you do it one time. It's almost like the same as a musician learning to play a piece of music. We learn to play the music simply, or simple music, so that it sounds good and we're satisfied with it. And then we can begin to play more complicated music, and we could say that in the sense that once you've gotten this first jhana, we want to test it out. We want to take it for a test ride. And the first thing that we would probably want to do is to test getting the first jhana going and then being able to stand up and walk around while we're still in that state of first jhana. And if we're standing up and walking around and we begin to see things that need to be done, like we walk into the kitchen at first jhana and we see the dirty dishes, and blop, now we're back into ordinary mind again. Oh, I've got to go wash those dishes. But if we keep practicing over and over again, we can walk into the kitchen, see the dirty dishes, and now we can start washing the dishes happily. They're okay. I can do this and keep my mind in a really good state of mind. So this is what we do. We begin to practice testing the first jhana so that we can give it strength. And as we keep practicing over and over and over again, we can sustain this first jhana so that we can keep it moving, keep it rolling. Everything is all right. Everything is fine. And so if we lose it, if we see those dirty dishes, instead of washing the dirty dishes unhappily, the better thing to do is to go back and say, wow, I was better off before I saw those dirty dishes. Let me come and clean my mind, because it's not the dishes that are dirty, it's my mind that has gotten dirty. Dirty dishes on their own, they're okay, not a problem. Dogs will eat a dish, lick the plate clean. He's got no problem with a dirty dish. Why should we? So, we need to come back and practice again. Get ourselves secluded from those dirty dishes and come back and get the mind in a really good state. We want to practice this over and over and over again. No matter what happens, we can clean the mind out right then and there and come back into this state of, wow, everything is all right. Not a problem in the world. Everything is okay. This is the way that we practice so that we begin to have more and more and more time of satisfaction and less and less and less time of dissatisfaction. It takes practice. But this is the enlightenment. If you can get yourself into a state of satisfaction and be able to sustain it and maintain it, what else is there in life? This is all there is to it. Ivan, you got a question? I see your hand waving. Go right ahead, friend.
No, I just want to say, like, the wholesome is always more powerful than the unwholesome. If you have a greedy if you have a greedy mind, there's always the wholesome of non-greedy. I was just thinking about that, like, can give
Mm-hmm.
rise to the wholesome quality.
Yes. So that's why we want to remember to keep looking, because it's really, really easy for the mind to go back into that state of dissatisfaction, because that's our habit, that's our style, that's our uh, past, and it's powerful. Like I said before, it's spring loaded, which means that we have to keep pulling, we have to keep taking the right effort. Now, if you know enough about springs, you know that taking the spring and stretching it out is more work than keeping it stretched out. Another example of that would be you're swinging a child on a swing, and pushing it off the first time is more work. Once you get the child swinging in the swing, it takes a very little nudge to keep it going. But if we stop, then gravity is going to pull the swing back down to where it's not swinging anymore, and now it takes work to start it off again. So The easy way to actually live one's life is to keep that swing going, keep the mind going, keep the mind open, keep the mind actually fit for work. Now, that term fit for work is actually a word of Bhikkhu Buddhadasa. And what he's meaning by fit for work is that it's relaxed, it's open, it's unhindered, it doesn't have a heavy load, and so we can actually see very clearly that, in fact, when the mind is fit for work, we can actually see those hindrances. They pop back into the mind because we're looking. That's what, when the mind is now fit for work, the work is actually so much easier. It's actually quite playful when we have the attitude and have the mind that's really fit for work. There's not much work there. That, in fact, all of the hard work is because the mind is not really fit for work. And so we make it hard on ourselves, but when the mind is actually fit for work, we can do the work. So, does anybody have any questions? Santiago, what do you think?
I think it's great. Thank you.
Is that all?
That's all.
That's all, okay. So, Luke, do you have anything to say? Must not. How about you, Michael Swift? Do you have something to say? Have any questions? How's it for you?
No, Dhammarato, nothing here. Everything is great and wonderful. Thank you.
All right, yes, let's get ourselves into that really great, wonderful state, and then there's nothing to talk about. How about you, Mr. Ben?
All good here. Thank you, Dhammarato. Thank you for the talk and the jokes. I always love hearing them.
I didn't hear that last part.
I said thank you for the Dhamma and for the jokes. They're always good to hear again.
All right. So, Dhammadasa, do you have anything to say?
No, thank you so much.
Okay, let's see who else. Will, a baked potato. What do you have to say? Not much. All right.
They're writing on the chat.
What did they write?
Oh no, it just says that they're typing. So
Pardon?
it just says that they're typing, so they're probably writing it out right now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I have a question. Like, what do you use to evaluate what's the best possible working state of the mind? Like, the one that has the peak productivity and everything like that.
Well, number one is that it's free from the hindrances. That's it. That's the most important one is that we have a mind that's fit for work because it's got no hindrances to it. Think of it like this, that you've got a car that's got a trailer that's hitched to it. And that trailer actually slows the truck down. It takes its power away. Truck is not really fit for all that it's capable of because it's pulling that trailer, the hindrances. So the first thing to do is to get rid of that trailer, get rid of all of the baggage. That is, in fact, this is the way of looking at it on a regular basis, is get rid of the baggage. Whatever it is that you're carrying, drop it. Because when we're carrying stuff, when we're carrying a load, the mind is not really fit for work because it's already being busy carrying a bunch of garbage. So that's the number one thing, is the mind is fit for work because it's not hindered. It's well tuned. So when your engine is well tuned, it's got no burden to it, then it's fit for work. And how do we well tune the mind? By coming out of our dissatisfaction into a state of satisfaction, coming into that state of satisfaction that has occasionally that wow feeling to it, that blissful state, that state of exuberance.
Oh, thank you.
That's how we practice. So, vitamins. Take your vitamins. What do you have to say?
Thank you. This was a really good reminder. It is true that when you have to start again, it's harder to maintain, and I'm feeling that. So I'm thankful.
Okay. Yes. So, Ivan, you got your hand up again, I think.
No, I was just clicking the praying emoji. I was just basically saying I understand what vitamin is saying. So yeah, that's all.
So, Luke, do you have something to add?
I've been I watched one of your videos where you were talking about every hour spending 5 minutes gladdening the mind. So I've been putting that into practice and it's been good. So thank you.
Yes, keep practicing. Keep doing it over and over and over again. In a way, we could say building new pathways of the mind.
Yeah.
So, Santiago, I see that there is text coming in. Can you read it to us?
Yeah, it says, a baked potato says, I'm okay for now, I think. Thanks for sharing. I still feel like it's a bit fanciful. I'm sorry to be stubborn and negative. It just seems like putting a band-aid over the bad. It's hard to start again, for real, especially when we have no evidence of being good enough.
All right. You
I think that was
recognize, baked potato, that in fact you're creating that wound that you're trying to put a band-aid over. You made it up. It's part of your neurological system. All you have to do is say, I'm okay. There's no wound there. You made that wound up. You're already all right. This is something that we have to see. In fact, what's really going on here is that he's not able to see the dukkha in making statements that have to do that there's a wound, because in fact the wound doesn't exist other than the fact that it's just an old habit of saying I'm wounded, I'm wounded, I'm wounded. The healing of that wound is I'm okay, I'm not wounded, everything is all right. It's just an old habit, but it's a deep habit. So you can say I'm okay, and then the next thought will be, but I'm wounded. So what do we do with that? We bring it back again from I'm wounded into no, I'm not wounded. That's just an unwholesome thought, that I'm actually okay. Ben, do you have something? No, Ben is gone. All right. So this is how you practice baked potato, is beginning to see that you're creating unwholesome thoughts. You're saying to yourself that you're wounded, where in fact you're not wounded. You're just in the habit of saying that you're wounded. Can you come out of that habit? Those are the unwholesome thoughts, and we're all stuck in them. We keep thinking that, oh, I'm wounded, oh, I can't do it, and those are just unwholesome thoughts. What does he say, Santiago?
I think it was But I'm not. I literally just broke down crying because of it.
Well, that's a good sign. You're breaking down, which means you're beginning to recognize that you've been lying to yourself, that you're not wounded. That's just an old lie that you've been telling. You learned that lie when you were a child and you repeated it so many times you've now believed that it's true. So now is the time to start practicing. You're not wounded. Everything is okay. Not a problem in the world. If you succumb and say, oh, but I am wounded, then where are you going to go from there? Just more wounded. You're just stabbing yourself and claiming that you're wounded, or in fact, it's you that's stabbing yourself. Let's stop doing that. Let's see that we're actually harming ourselves, and so we can put that mental knife down and be okay. It's actually quite easy. There's no reason to heal the wound because the wound doesn't exist. You're just thinking that the wound exists. You're feeling bad because you think there's a wound there, but in fact you're making that wound every time you say that I'm wounded. You're saying, how can I heal the wound when the wound doesn't exist? That's just an unwholesome thought. You have to practice over and over and over again. I'm not wounded. Can you at least say that now? Let's see you type in, I'm not wounded. Yeah, say you're not wounded.
Matt, do you want to say what you type or should I read for it?
Oh yeah, sure. So, uh, if you don't mind, I would like to share my experience. So back when I was around 12, I became like a novice monk, and like back then, yes, I did some similar methods like this where I convinced myself that like my wound isn't like valid. I just made it up, all those stuff, and then I ended up in like therapy because like I ended up like denying so many things that I experienced, and like different parts of my mind kind of like end up like having conflicts with each other because each of them have different beliefs of what actually happened, what didn't happen, and it's through like this like Buddhist wheel technique that I kind of like learned afterwards called the Paticca, where it's like trying to find out where things come from that helped me kind of like heal from the wound that like and alongside with like grounding myself in like using combining like different fields from like knowledge from different fields from like Buddhism and therapy, like psychology and like AI to kind of like see how the mind works in general and things like that, and try to see like which thought comes from which like input or experiences, and yeah, like you said, like which unwholesome or wholesome thoughts come from which like experiences. But what I do differently is that I try to be aware of like how thoughts are formed from like information we receive rather than trying to say it doesn't exist or things like that.
Yes, that's good. If you continue to recognize that all of the problems that you've ever had, you made those up. You were taught to make them up from people who were making up their own problems and suffering. But now is the time to get the mind secluded from that. That's the way to look at it, is get the mind secluded from that stuff. And tell yourself, actually, everything right now is okay. And when we have those thoughts again that, oh, I'm broken, we can say, no, that's just an unwholesome thought. Then, in fact, right now, I'm okay. I'm fine. Santiago, did you see something else typed?
A baked potato said that Matt is getting what I'm saying. People think I'm dramatic or silly, but I feel it everywhere I go. How different I am, and it hurts.
Well, you think that people think you're silly, and we're talking about being alone, being in seclusion, and when you're alone and in seclusion, you don't have to have thoughts about people think I'm silly. Instead, you can have the thought of, right now, there's nobody around to call me silly. Isn't that marvelous? I'm already okay right now. I know that this is hard for a lot of people. They're so stuck in the dukkha, they're so stuck in their negative that they actually can't see that they're creating their own negative mind. So this is actually one of the most important qualities of the teaching of the Buddha, is to look and to see that those thoughts of I'm broken, people call me silly, and all of that kind of stuff is just another thought that you're creating that keeps you from feeling the way you actually want to feel, which is okay. That's all there is to it. You're creating that state of broken. And when I talk to you about it that you're not broken, something deep inside is saying, yes, I am. I'm going to slam that door right back in my own face. And you don't have to do that. You can recognize that your old habits are keeping you from feeling good right now. That's all there is to it. You can keep practicing over and over again. I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. And those thoughts of I'm broken, I'm wounded will become less and less. Santiago, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, if I start saying I'm bipolar and I have ADHD and I can't do this and I can't do that and life is always going to be this way, I'm just generating thoughts that are feeding each other and feeding to the next unwholesome thought and next unwholesome thought. And I don't cut that and then continue to some positive thought, and I will stay there.
But when you
until
start to
I'm not
practice
there.
go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, eventually it will cool off too. I mean, you could be negative, and it'll cool off, but you could have just skipped it by being wholesome and having wholesome thoughts, and then
Mm-hmm. Then, in fact, you're making kind of an important point, is that no one is in dukkha all the time. That there are moments when we like stuff. There's moments when we're feeling okay. But the habit is to fall right back into the negative thoughts. And the funny thing that I've seen over and over again, like what's happening with baked potato right now, is that when I say you're okay, he immediately swings back to the opposite. No, I'm not. I'm broken. No, I'm not. I'm wounded. But in fact, that's one of the points that I've seen that with people when they're actually practicing. They say everything is all right, and then the next thought will be, no, it's not. And we have to be able to see that thought that's contradicting us and say, that's just another thought. I can change it back to everything is okay again. Over and over again, over and over again. Everything is all right, everything is okay. And then that thought will come back in. No, it's not. I don't feel good. And so you actually destroy the good thought that you had because you go back into the habit. So the practice is to sustain this, to keep practicing, to keep applying the mind over and over and over again to the wholesome.
Wait, I'm curious, like that, like from my experience, that doesn't really account for like the Four Noble Truths from what the Buddha says, where we first have to accept suffering. So yes, we need to
Where
live with
does he ever say that he has to accept suffering?
it's in the Four Noble Truths. It starts with suffering, then cause of suffering, then the state of the end of suffering, then the path
Yes,
that leads towards that.
precisely. So where does it say that I've got to keep suffering? Where does it say that? It doesn't. It says,
Oh,
here's the suffering and here is the
mhm.
cause of suffering. Get out of it. Stop it.
Yeah, and I didn't say that we need to stay in suffering. I just say that we just don't have to deny it, and we
Oh, well,
just
we're talking about recognizing it for sure so that we
Mhm.
can change it. We're not saying
Yeah.
deny the suffering. Not at all.
Oh, nice.
No way we're not saying it. We're saying that, in fact, that the suffering is coming from ignorance. Now it's time to wise up and to see the suffering directly and to see that you're causing it so that you can change it right then and there. This is what the Eightfold Noble Path is really all about, is it's a change model. You have to be able to look and see the unwholesome thought and then change it right then.
Okay, makes sense now. Thanks.
I'm glad of that. Congratulations. You got it right then and there. That's the whole point is that we've got to stop saying, oh, well, I've got to suffer. I've got to be able to see it. Then, in fact, the story that I have about that is imagine that you're on a sidewalk, you're on a pathway, and right in front of you is a big pile of dog doodle. What are you going to do? Well, one of the things you can do is you can see it and step right in it anyway. The other possibility is what we call the Mahasi method, and that is, we carefully scoop that doggy doodle up, we take it into the kitchen, we slice it, we dice it, we puree it, we mix it with ingredients, and we eat it. That's what you're thinking about, is that you've got to put up with the dukkha until you really understand it. But the teaching of the Buddha is no, just see it enough to recognize that this is dukkha, and then you can step around it. Don't step in it. Don't pay any attention to it. Just move on. Throw it out. So this is the way of the teaching of the Buddha. This is built right into the Four Noble Truths. It's built right into the Eightfold Noble Path. To stop, let's say, wallowing in our own self-pity. To stop wallowing in the crap that we just created. Make it easy for yourself. Everything is okay. Everything is fine. It's only our old habits of unwholesome thoughts that create that pile of dog doodle. Everything is okay. Everything is fine. What do you think now, Matt?
Oh yeah, makes more sense now. But the question now becomes, how do we make our mind default to creating thoughts that are useful to us?
Well, that's easy enough. I'll give you a list of wholesome thoughts, and you can repeat these, okay? Take note. I'm okay. Everything is fine. Wow, I don't have to think on negative thoughts. There's no place to go and nothing to do, and everything is okay. Wow, I feel a relief. Wow, what a relief it is. These are all wholesome thoughts. You can start practicing having wholesome thoughts. Wow, everything is okay. You can go even into that part about, I'm not wounded. I'm all right.
No need to worry.
That's just a thought. Now I can have the thought, I'm not broken. I'm whole. But in fact, when you're whole, that's on your way to being holy. And feeling holy means that you have a sense of well-being, that you're in a, let us say, a paradise. You're in a holy place. You become sacred. You become whole. To where when you say, I'm broken, that's destructive. That's making a duality, where in fact the duality doesn't exist, except when the thought is different than reality. So reality is unity, but thinking that reality is not good enough, that's duality. Let's be whole. We're on the way to whole. We're on the way to holiness. To have a sense of well-being. Everything is okay. Not a problem in the world. These are the kind of thoughts that you'll have.
I have another.
Yes.
I have another question about based off the analogy of the dog poop. Yes, the dog poop externally we can throw it out and things like that. But for in thoughts within our mind, right? They kind of are stuck within the mind. So from experience, I can't really throw thoughts out
No.
without them.
Hang on. They are not stuck in the mind. Saying that they're stuck in the mind is just another unwholesome thought. And then you can repeat, they're stuck in the mind. And that's an unwholesome thought right then and there. And you can change that thought from they're not stuck, I'm throwing this stuff out, right then and there. So saying that it's stuck, that's just another unwholesome thought. So we need to see those thoughts and change them into, I'm not stuck, I'm not broken, I'm not stabbed, I'm not wounded, I'm okay. And we keep saying that over and over and over again, I'm okay, I'm okay. Santiago, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm good.
How about you, Luke? Are you okay? How about Mikey? Are you
Good.
okay? How about you,
Oh
Dhamma?
yeah.
You okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So, Matt, that's all you have to do is keep saying over and over again that you're okay. You're all right. You got nothing to do, no problems to solve. Wow, isn't it great you've got no problems to solve? Wow, isn't it great that you see that you're the one who created the dog doodle? And that you don't have to do that. You're all right. Anna, are you okay?
How do we know which part of the mind is responsible for creating the dog doodle in the first place?
You don't. That's just another irrelevant, unwholesome question. That's what keeps people. In fact, the Westerners, they keep asking why. They keep asking, well, what caused this? And the Buddha is just very straight right there. The reason that you have the dukkha is because you're too stupid to recognize that you've got dukkha. That's the reason for it. It's ignorance. And that ignorance means that you want something. You want to be free from it, but you get stuck in I wanna, I wanna, I wanna. Or the other side of it is I can't because I'm broken. I can't. And that's just an ignorant thought. It's an unwholesome thought. All we need to do is just to change that thought into, well, everything is okay. Not a problem in the world. I don't have to figure out why. They call that, by the way, in psychotherapy, they call that psychological archaeology. And it doesn't matter what was the original cause. That's like the Christians and the atheists getting into an argument about what was the first cause, what was the Big Bang, how did God do it? And the answer is, I don't know, I wasn't there, I don't care. And in fact, you're saying, I don't know, I don't care, I wasn't there, was because you were sleepy, you were not awake, you didn't see what happened. And so trying to figure out what happened is irrelevant. In fact, it's unwholesome. Better thing to do is just to drop it. You don't have to say, why did I pick this up? We don't even have to say, why is it so heavy? All we need to do is just put it down. Set it down. Yes, Ivan, you got your hand up.
From my experience, the why only comes after the dukkha has been dropped. It's basically like what people say about samatha and vipassana, and the calming down of the mind has to come first before the investigation can take place. At least that's my experience.
Actually, they work together.
Yeah.
You can't calm yourself down until you can see the agitation. And when you see the agitation, you can calm down. And when you calm down, then you can see even more subtle agitations, and then you can calm that down. So insight or vipassana and samatha, calming down, work together, one with the other. If you only have one, you don't have it very well. You have to have its companion. So you look and you calm down, and then you look again and calm down even more, and then you look again and calm down even more. And every time that those unwholesome thoughts of I can't or I'm not calm come up, we can say, yes, I am, I'm calm. Wow, I'm calm enough right now. So that's the key then is the word enough. I'm good enough. So some of us can say, I'm wounded, but not much. I'm still good enough. The wound is not big. It's just a small wound. I'm okay. And when we calm down from that one, Ivan, then we can say, wait a minute, I'm not wounded at all.
Yeah,
Not
100%.
much
Like,
to it.
yeah, that's been my experience before. Like, when I telling myself a story, I'm traumatized or whatever, and my mind only fixate on those part that has a problem. It's like my mind is so occupied in fixing things, and all it sees is problem. And when I realized all those stories not true, I made them up, and yeah, feels really nice to not feel that way anymore. Yeah.
Congratulations, Ivan. Congratulations. To recognize that you made that stuff up and you can bring yourself down from that. There's really no problem. And the way to start, Matt, is by saying, oh, it's not much of a problem. It's not a big problem. Baked potato, you can say, yeah, I'm wounded, but not much. Let me watch myself stab myself, and then I can stop stabbing myself so that I don't feel wounded. And you put down that knife, you stop stabbing yourself, and you let the wound heal immediately. Well, I'm okay. The wound will heal all by itself. I don't need to do anything other than feel good about it. So this is actually very early practice that we're talking about here. I was wanting to talk about the full jhana, the full first jhana, about how wonderful we feel when we can do it. And you guys are back on to, but I can't even do the first step. I'm broken. No, you're not. Telling yourself that you're broken is broken. Telling yourself that you're wounded is wounding. Can you see that you're wounding yourself when you say, I'm wounded? And then we can say, wait a minute, I can stop doing that. I can begin to feel good. Because I keep talking to myself about how good things really are. So by talking about how good they are, we begin to change our attitude from being the wounded victim. It's the victim's mentality. It's the wounded mindset, the attitude, the state of mind you're in can be changed. It takes a little bit, but by gladdening the mind, by saying that there's not much wound there, I'm okay. And we keep doing that, and pretty soon we change the attitude from being wounded to where I'm not wounded, I'm all right. Nothing can wound me other than myself, and I'm going to stop wounding myself. And then the next step after that is, wow, how great it is that I'm not wounded. I've stopped wounding myself, at least for a little while. And then the old habit will come back again. Never mind, start again. Start again. You're not wounded.
I'm curious, how does Buddha's teaching of no self applies with the wounding of self?
We can go off into that in great detail, but the easy way out right now is we're going to this call is that it's you, the self, that's wounding the self. And when you're not wounding yourself, the self is not wounding the self, where is the self? The self is in fact that which grabs and clings and carries. And when you're not carrying anything, there's no one to carry. You invent the self momentarily. When you say, I'm wounded, that's the self right there that's wounded. When you say, I'm not wounded. So, Vitamin, do you have something to say?
Hi, I have a question. I'm not sure if I'm taking it too literally. So, what if I'm actually physically wounded? I can still say I'm okay, but do I still say, well, I'm not wounded, I'm not broken?
Mm-hmm. I'm okay. The wound is, maybe the wound is a physical wound on the body, but we're not talking about physical wounds on the body. We're talking about mental wounds on the mind. If you're wounded on the physical body, then what do? We clean it, the wound, we dress the wound, we put ointment in the wound, and we let it heal all by itself. But let us say that it's like a mosquito bite. It's a little wound, but it's got an agitation, it's got an irritation, it's got a scratchy sensation to it, an itchy sensation, and then we start to claw at it. We start to scratch and scratch and scratch and scratch with our hand, and we make it worse. So the first thing that I would say then, let's, instead of putting or scratching it, let's put a salve on it. Let's put a balm on it. Let's nurture it. Let's take care of it with the thought of everything is all right. Everything is fine. Now, later, we can reflect upon what did I do to get wounded. If I banged my thumb with a hammer while I was driving a nail, let's watch more carefully. Let's not bang thumbs. We can also go so far as to use wisdom. Then we can talk about wisdom. Wisdom is seeing how things happen so that we can stop doing that. Let us say that we got robbed and we got stabbed in the robbing. That means now the wise one is not going to go into that neighborhood anymore. We don't go into dangerous places. That's the easy way out, is just don't create the danger. Don't go into dangerous places. We're not going to get stabbed. Santiago, can you read that?
It's
Somebody's writing.
yeah, Baked Potato says, do you think there is a safety in being unhappy?
No, of course not. Why would you ask such a stupid question? There is no safety in unhappiness. It's unhappiness that's in unhappiness. That creates the feeling of danger automatically. Safety is not a mental prison. Safety is, in fact, is a freedom to feel safe. To keep
Oh, and I'm
yourself in a safe state.
curious about like the analogy of like avoiding the alley with like dangerous people. Like let's say if there's more and more like dangerous people, right? Then eventually then that will cause people to avoid everything. So like how why don't we like try to work on like healing those people and make them like treat other people nicely rather than like trying to avoid what is causing harm?
Exactly. If you fight, if you argue with people, they'll argue back. If you fight with people, they'll defend themselves and fight back. Why? Because they're ordinary people. They're not noble. We're practicing to be noble. So when somebody is dangerous to you, that's just a thought. Instead of saying this that way, they're dangerous like a bully, you can say, oh, he's just another friend of mine. We can get along just fine. It has to do with attitude. The attitude of it being dangerous is just an attitude. Things are
Yeah,
not dangerous.
so we find out why they're having this property of danger, and then we try and address that for them, right? Not just like
No,
change
I
within our
wouldn't
mind.
say I wouldn't say that you have to address the danger. Instead, you can just ignore the danger. and
But
recognize that there's no danger, that we made
that
it
doesn't.
up. We made up the feeling of danger.
How does that go towards cause of suffering, which is the second noble truth within the Four Noble Truths?
Well, seeing danger when there's really no danger there, a good example of that is the bully. He wants you to be afraid of him. If you're not afraid of the bully, he's going to ignore you and go find somebody else to mess with.
Yo, what's going on, guys? We doing good tonight? Are we chanting what's the chant for 100 times to get to the promised land?
I can't hear a word you're saying. Mikey, can you translate what he said?
I said nothing. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's okay. We're all good here.
Yeah, your mic is very muted and muffled. It's hard to hear. My hearing
I
is
do
not
have
good.
several things in the way of my mic, so yeah, that checks out. That checks out.
Mikey, can you translate what he's saying?
I think I'm just gonna kick him. I don't think
Wait.
he's here to have a genuine conversation.
No, please. Actually, unironically, like, I'm coming in here being like this. I am actually curious. So, just saying.
Can you hang on just a second? Just hang on. Mikey, what's he talking about?
He's not really saying anything much at all. He's just like, "What's going on?" And he's
No,
being
I'm
silly
not.
and goofy. He doesn't actually have anything to
Ignore me.
say.
Dude, Dhammarato, ignore me. Yeah.
I
Don't worry
will.
about what I'm saying.
Please be
Okay, you're
quiet then.
ignored.
Just be quiet.
Got you.
All right. You came on the call very late.
Yes, sir. My
Yes, we've been
apologies, sir.
going on now an hour and 30 minutes already.
I know. My bad. Didn't mean to join here late. Sorry, sir.
All right. So, Matt, do you have everything straightened out now?
I say it's starting. It's better than when we started, but it still have some like experiences that I've like kind of like experienced during like my own meditations that doesn't really align with what I perceive that you're describing. But maybe it's some form of miscommunication. But yeah.
Almost always, when people say that they're not meditating correctly according to what the Buddha's taught. They're meditating according to what they've heard someplace. That meditation actually is a change model when it's correct. I don't even use the word meditation. I use the word practice in the sense of practicing correctly. And what is correct practice is to see those thoughts as unwholesome and change them. And most people will sit in what they're calling meditation and let the mind wander all over the place because they're
Yeah.
not actually paying close attention to the thought, one thought after another, and then making a change to it. This is really a change model, and we're not talking about a change over a period of weeks, months, or years. We're talking about a change right now. And then
This
again, right
dude's
now.
cooking.
Over and over and over again. Make a change right now. You
You're
see, this
cooking,
thought is
man.
unwholesome.
Oh yeah.
So, Vitamin, how are you doing?
Good.
You're okay. That's good to hear. So, Luke, do you have any further things to add?
No, all good here, Dhammarato. Thank you.
All right? Remember that the change is right here, right now. This thought needs to be changed. This one. We're not looking for a change later. And that's what the practice of meditation, especially Western meditation, is all about, is let's sit here and hope that things will be better someday. But the actual practice is, let's make it better right now. This is it. This is the only place there is. This is the only time there is right now. Let's change this thought right now. Let's not worry about where it came from. Let's not worry about what it takes to fix it. Let's just change it right now. That's all there is to it.
I also have a question about like what's considered wholesome or unwholesome. Isn't that subjective? Like um, different people will have different things they like and they don't like, and
I would say offhand that no, it's not subjective, it's ignorance. It's ignorance. You already have heard me say, what is wholesome? Everything is okay right now. That's wholesome. Oh, I'm wounded. That's unwholesome. That's obviously unwholesome. Oh, I'm going to go wound him. That's clearly, obviously unwholesome. Everything is okay. Everything is fine. Not a worry in the world. I'm all right. No place to go. Nothing to do. Wow, things are really good. Those are all wholesome thoughts.
I mean, to be fair, I have to point out that that's pretty like extremes, two different extremes. There must be some kind of line in the middle where it gets a bit hard to differentiate.
Actually, that's an important point that you're making. What you're now saying is that there's a great big middle between absolutely wholesome and absolutely not wholesome. And that great big middle is when we're ignorant to say that we can't decide whether it's wholesome or unwholesome. And that the more you practice, the more you begin to see dukkha, the more you recognize that those things in the middle are actually unwholesome. Let's stay out of the I'm not sure. Let's stay out of that ignorant state in the middle and go back to what we know for sure is absolutely wholesome. Instead of trying to justify ordinary thoughts, let's just stop them and come right back to wholesome thoughts. I would also say that the ordinary thoughts are not 90%, they're closer to 100%, that only rarely do we have absolutely wholesome thoughts. Let's start practicing absolutely wholesome thoughts.
That okay, actually, I came in here, right, like planning to be a dickhead. I am actually, like, I am meaning this in a sense to contribute. You're talking about the wholesome thoughts and all. It's like I came in here again. I came in here planning to be a dickhead and to be disruptive. I was like, okay, I shouldn't do that. Like, like y'all are actually trying to do some stuff.
Hang on just a second.
That I ain't doing that
Hang
to
on a
y'all.
second so far. Hang on.
Okay.
Mikey,
Yeah.
can you translate what he's saying? I don't hear anything that he's saying. I hear him mumbling, but I don't
You
hear
haven't
anything.
said anything yet. You're just
Okay.
he's
Hang
just
on.
rambling.
Let me at least get an interpretation from Mikey. Just be quiet for a second. Just
Yeah,
stop.
he's just
Never
rambling.
mind.
He's not
Never
he's not
mind. Never
saying
mind. Never
anything.
mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Now everybody's
I
talking.
never even.
No.
No, no, no. Never mind. Ignore me. I didn't say a word.
All right, he's saying ignore him again. So I'm gonna go ahead and mute you for now, but you're welcome to stay and listen, okay? He's just rambling, Dhammarato. Don't worry about it. I've muted him for now.
All right. Okay. So, Scott, can you hear me? Yeah, there you are. Hey, Scott,
Yeah. What's up? How's it
are you
going?
in Thailand now?
Yeah, I'm in Thailand. I'm at my girlfriend's apartment. Yeah, stay
Ah,
outside.
so that's exact. I thought so. That's why you're back in Thailand.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's
All
my.
right. Good to see you, friend.
Yeah, good to see you. Good to see you.
So, what's happening with you, baked potato?
Oh, I'm also curious. Once we reach the point where like everything that is considered unwholesome and ignorant is like kind of like move away from, and then we only have wholesome thoughts. What then?
Yeah, that's the whole point. Can you have a system of one wholesome thought after another wholesome thought after another wholesome thought? That's the way to practice, is so that you have a consistent stream of wholesome thoughts, one after the other.
And what's the point of having wholesome thoughts one after another? What can we like
Well, that's the
make use
whole
of it?
teaching of the Buddha, is to stop having unwholesome thoughts, to stop causing yourself trouble, stop being dissatisfied, and start being happy and satisfied. Everything is okay. Everything is fine. Stop making trouble. There's no trouble. Everything is easy peasy. Why do we make it hard? When the mind is fit for work, everything is easy.
Hmm.
Why would you want to make stuff hard? Unnecessarily difficult.
Can you give an example of like when like the things get easier? Like how does it get easier?
Okay, the computer breaks. Never mind. Just because the computer broke doesn't mean that I'm broke.
Yeah, but let's say if I have to finish work on the computer, like how am I gonna continue to exist if I can't do work, I can't get money to uh, feed myself or things like that?
Are you going to be, let us say, not having any money and worry about it? Or are you going to be in a state of not having any money and you're okay? You see, worry is optional. So let me introduce it like this. In some places, it's called the OK Corral. And imagine that it's like a window pane. You've got a lower and an upper, and you've got a left and you've got a right. Okay? If we can see
Mm-hmm.
it like that, then recognizing that you've got choices on both sides. All right? On the left, you do it, and on the right, you don't do it. Whatever the activity is, whatever the action is, you've always got a choice. You're either going to do it or not do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the upper and the lower, we have on the lower, I'm going to feel bad. And then on the upper, I'm going to feel good. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you have four choices always. One is I'm going to feel bad and not do it, or I'm going to feel bad and do it. And then the other one is I'm going to feel good and not do it, or I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to feel good and do it. And recognizing that those four choices are available every moment. That every moment that you're doing it, you can stop doing it. Every moment that you're feeling bad about doing it, you can in fact stop doing it and continue to feel bad. Or you can continue to do it and stop feeling bad and start feeling good. But most of us are not ready to change our feelings so quickly. We need to practice that. And this is what the practice that we're talking about today, the practice of the Eightfold Noble Path, is to see that we're feeling bad because we're having negative, unwholesome thoughts. And we can change that. And when you get skilled at being able to change the unwholesome thoughts to the wholesome thoughts, then you can change your feeling from I don't like it into it's okay, I like it. But it has to be practiced over and over again. You've always got a choice to either do it or not do it, and you always have a choice of either you're going to like it or you don't like it. But that choice is actually so based into old habits that people generally feel that they don't have a choice. But if you start practicing to have a choice, pretty soon that choice becomes easy to see, easy to manage. So the way to do it is to start having wholesome thoughts. one after another, and when you have wholesome thoughts, you begin to change your attitude from an unwholesome attitude to a wholesome attitude, and pretty soon you start changing the bad feelings into good feelings. All of these things affect one another. It's actually starkly pointed out in the Anapanasati Sutta that these things are all interrelated. And so starting to have wholesome thoughts will lead you to having wholesome attitude, wholesome state of mind, which will then lead to having wholesome feelings. Easy if you keep practicing. Hard if you let the habits run. And your whole life you've been letting the habits do the job because the mind wasn't fit for work. But once you recognize that you've got a choice, that makes the mind usable, functional. Your life becomes easy because you've dropped the burden. And what is the burden? The old bad habits.
How much time does it take for this change to actually take into effect?
Actually, don't think of it like that. That's the wrong way to think. That's hoping and wanting the future. The better way to think is, hot dog, I feel good right now. Don't worry about the future. Then, in fact, that future that you're hoping for will never happen. It'll never happen. Why? Because right now you're so worried about the future that you're not dealing with the present moment. When you start dealing with the present moment, the future will take care of itself. Because when the future gets here, guess what? It's just another present moment then. So don't worry
Is
about
it
how long it takes. Worry about, can I do it right now? And don't worry about doing it right now. Just do it right now. What is that? Change your mind from an unwholesome state of, oh, how long does it take? Into, hey, I can do it right now. I can do this.
Is it part of this idea to not even consider approximately how much time it will take to achieve personal changes?
Again, I can tell you that's an unwholesome thought. You see that those thoughts about the future are unwholesome. That's another way that we can talk about it is thoughts of the past and thoughts of the future are all unwholesome. The only thought that's going to be wholesome is right now is okay. So don't worry about the future. It'll never happen anyway. By the time you get there, it'll be now. It won't be future.
Interestingly.
Go ahead, Ivan.
All right.
No, yeah, interestingly, in the sutta, there's no mention of how long it will take you to, practice. The Buddha always point to practice now, and so that's kind of indication.
Yeah, wanting it to be in the future is just another hindrance. Can you throw that hindrance out and say, right now is all right? Everything is okay right now. I see somebody typing. Santiago, can you read it?
Somebody typed, how does this fit in your interpretation of Buddhism? And then there's a chart of the 12 links.
This is in the sutras. This is not an interpretation. This is actually it.
Sent the diagram of the Paticca like a cycle of cause and effect. Like you said, we don't focus on the cause and effect, right? But there's also Buddhist teachings where there's focus on trying
The
to
cause and effect is right here, right now. The thought of being dissatisfied has a thought of immediately before that. Can you start watching these thoughts one after another and see how they're interrelated? To see that in fact the cause and effect You see that having positive, wholesome thoughts will lead to a positive, wholesome attitude. That's cause and effect right there.
Oh, thanks.
Cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. Let's start having some wholesome causes so that we can have some wholesome effects right here, right now.
I'm
That's
curious,
all there
why
is to it.
limit to only right here, right now, and why only limit to wholesome and unwholesome thoughts? Why not find cause and effect for everything? Or is everything like
In other
within?
words, you're trying to justify unwholesome thoughts. No need to justify unwholesome thoughts. Change them immediately. You can go through your whole life going from one unwholesome thought to another, trying to justify one wholesome thought after another. When are we going to actually make a change from the unwholesome to the wholesome? Right now, that's the time to change. And while you keep asking all of these questions, Matt, that means then that you're not changing right now. So I invite you to stop asking questions. That's just doubt. That's actually just another form of unwholesome thoughts. They're hindering you from being on top of the world right now. Why don't you practice being okay right now? No need to ask questions. Just be okay right now. Everything is fine. No
But
warning.
how do we get answers if we don't ask questions?
You don't
And
need answers. You need to feel good. You don't need answers. You've been
how
seeking answers your whole life and you're still unhappy.
how is feel good better than answers? Isn't answers what causes unignorance rather than feeling good? Because feeling good still
Here's a point. Wanting to know is an ignorant thought. A more wholesome thought would be, I'm okay even if I don't know.
wouldn't like a question be kind of like an investment in like ignorance, where first we kind of like, yes, be in a state of like, oh, our mind is filled with more space for like ignorance, so like awareing of what we don't know, but then the question leads towards an answer which is a state of knowing, right? But like feeling good, how do we gain information that leads us out of ignorance
You
for
don't
like?
need any information other than what we've given. You already know enough. And you still keep asking questions over and over and over again, and you already know enough. What do you know? What do you need to know is all that all of these questions are keeping me from actually feeling good right now. Let me stop asking so many questions and
Wait,
just relax and say everything is okay right now. I don't need to know everything.
you said earlier that there's a separate graph for like actions and feelings, right? Where I can choose to still act and feel good. So why do you assume that I feel bad for asking questions? What if I'm
I
already
can
feeling
hear
good
it in the
while
tone
asking?
of your voice. I can hear it. I can hear the pleading.
Hmm. And is that pleading like the feeling from you or feeling from me? How do you know like that feeling is not the feeling you feel and actually the feeling I feel?
Again, that's because you're the one who was not looking.
Hmm?
You're the one who is not looking to see that these feelings that you've got right now and these thoughts and the questions that you're asking right now is preventing you from feeling really good. And all you have to do is stop all of those questions, take a deep breath and say, wow, everything is okay, and start feeling good. But what you're caught in all of these questions is very typical. I see it over and over and over again. That's why I'm aware of it, is I can see it. And right now, you can't see it yet. So I'm inviting you to stop looking, stop searching, stop wanting to know, and just feel good. Right here, right now.
Question. So you said you like encounter this kind of situations quite often. I'm curious to know, how do people change if they change to this, like to your mindset?
Well, that's an interesting non-question. All right. You just ask, how do people change? If you're in fact, what the real thing is that you're wanting to know about the future instead of asking the question about right now. Let the future take care of itself. Right now, can you say, I'm okay? Right now, can you say, I'm not wounded? Right now, can you say, everything is fine, not a worry in the world? Can
Oh,
you
and
start to practice having wholesome feelings? Can you practice having a wholesome language, a wholesome words? Start having a wholesome attitude right now. But when you're asking questions, that's the underlying feeling, the underlying assumption is, I don't have enough. I need more. And we can stop that I need more information, or I need more of this, or I need more of that, and have the feeling and the thought, I've got enough. This is enough. Got all I need. It's enough.
But
I'm curious,
still,
like,
in terms of like empirical data, I'm just curious, like what gets people in this mindset, like what kind of life situation, not from the perspective maybe of the mindset, like how to get into it, but like more of an anecdote from the life, like what life does to people, so they actually would agree with this mindset and completely get into it.
Well, you walk right into it with one thought after another, right in this present moment. No need to think about the future. No need to think about when and where. Those are all unwholesome thoughts. Right now, the wholesome thought is going to be, everything is okay. Everything is fine. Right now. Start practicing, everything is okay. Everything is fine. Not a worry in the world. We keep practicing that over and over again instead of asking a bunch of questions. Because there's
I think,
no end to the question.
oh, by the way, I think where the wild things are raise an interesting point about how's this different from hedonism, where, like, let's say if you want to just feel good all the time and not like find like where things come from and like the cause and effect, like how do you reach out beyond ignorance from this method?
Well, you mentioned the word hedonism.
Mm-hmm. Which is like
Hedonism is chasing. Hedonism is chasing. And guess what? You're chasing knowledge. That's hedonism. You're chasing knowledge.
and isn't chasing feeling good also like a way of chasing?
Actually, it's not. It's actually doing it. When you're chasing it, that means that you don't have it.
How does the
Wanting
doing?
something you don't have, wanting something that you don't have, even if it's pleasure, even if it's happiness, whatever, that's dukkha. Wanting something you don't have. Let's have things. Let's be satisfied with the way things are rather than chasing things. Just do it. You're okay. Can you say that you're okay? Can you say that? I'm okay. I've got enough. Everything is fine.
Didn't the Buddha also taught about like how
There's another question. I want to hear you say everything is okay. Everything is fine. Right now, it's all
that's
is well.
a command though? That's not a question. That's asking me like, oh, I should say, I have to say, you know, everything is okay. Which there are things that are okay and things that are not okay, right? It depends on people's like
It
feelings
depends
and thoughts,
upon
which are
your
caused by.
unwholesome mind states. And I'm inviting you to come out of your unwholesome mind states. Come out of
Wait,
your unwholesome mind states right now for just a little bit and start practicing correctly.
yeah, and
If
I'm
you're not
trying
going to
to,
do it
but
now, you probably won't do it later. You probably won't do it in 3 minutes from now because you're not doing it now. And I'm inviting you to let's do it right now.
from what you're describing, you seem to be labeling things that are considered wholesome and unwholesome based on like your understanding of like how does it this generalize towards like all properties of reality and everything like that?
Actually, I don't see any reason to continue with this. I don't
Oh,
see any reason. You're just back to where you were before. You keep asking more and more questions, and I'm inviting you to stop asking questions and just be okay right now. You've got enough, and you don't want to do that. You want to keep asking questions.
Yeah, these calls are an opportunity, an invitation to practice what the Buddha taught right here and right now. So see, when you have a question like, oh, well, what about this? What about that? What's going on over here? How do we figure all this out? A wholesome thought that can be brought to those types of questions is, don't need to worry about that right now. Don't need to solve that question. Don't need to figure out that riddle. Instead, we can practice taking it easy. We can practice enjoying the breath. We can practice being at peace instead of trying to solve the next question. Because like Dhammarato said, and like you're clearly demonstrating now, just question after question after question just keeps begetting more and more questions. So take an opportunity now instead to enjoy the breath. Take it easy. It's all right. It is okay to be okay.
Be okay right now. Everything is okay. This is what the practice is. That was the question today, is how do we get ourselves into a good state? And the answer right now is we stop asking questions. That's a hindrance. The hindrance of doubt. And you've got enough. Santiago, do you have enough?
Yeah, doing well.
Ivan, do you have enough?
More than enough.
So this is the way that we practice, is practicing having enough information. That's all the information that you need is, I've got enough. And everything else we're unsure about. We don't know about tomorrow right now.
okay. I'll stop asking questions. I'll uh, kind of explain what I've experienced so far. So doubt causes questions, right? Which
Yep.
causes answers, which causes lack of ignorance, which then kind of
No, that's more ignorant.
extinguishes the doubt,
You're
right?
you're mistaking information with ignorance. Okay, that information does not make you wise. Information is just a request for more information and more information, which you've demonstrated quite well right here on this call. You keep asking questions instead of just being okay. You want to know. You've got a feeling of, I've got to know. That's the hindrance of doubt. And you can drop that hindrance by saying, okay, right now everything is fine. Look how many scholars there are in the world, and none of them are happy. They keep more and more and more.
Maybe the Thai version of Buddhism and the version you're reading is different or something like that. But yeah, from what I've experienced so far, it's like actually complete opposite of what you're saying.
Well, that happens with almost everybody because the teaching of the Buddha is so radical, it's so different that most people get stuck where you're stuck. Stuck in asking questions, stuck in doubt, basically stuck in wanting to be right, stuck in justifying their position instead of making a change. And I'm inviting you to make a change. Come out of that stuck wanting to know into the change of everything is all right.
Okay, let's say if I don't ask any questions and I just want to feel as good as possible, how does that like once I reach the state of wholesome thought, like how does that
Not,
change? Like
you've
how do I
already
change
made a
from there?
mistake. Let me stop you immediately before you go any further, because you said as possible. We're not asking you to do anything as much as possible. We're asking you to feel good right now, to be satisfied with the way things are right now and let it grow. If you're not satisfied right now, then you've got no satisfaction. How could it possibly grow?
The
So let's
Buddha
be
said do the
satisfied.
best possible actions, thoughts, and like feelings as possible, right? So how does that fit into what you're saying?
Mikey, I didn't hear what he said. Can you help me out with this?
He said the Buddha said to do the best possible thoughts and actions. Is that correct?
Yes, thoughts, actions, feelings, like attention,
I'm
focus.
inviting you to do that right now. And you won't. You keep finding something to say. You keep pointing out this, that, and the other thing. Instead of listening to what I'm saying is do it right now. Make that change from all of those questions and all of that wow buts and what about this isms and come into, wow, everything is okay right now. Everything is fine. Everything is all right. Not a worry in the world. Hello, Nick. You came in late. Glad to see you.
How's it going on? It's a
Me
little bit
too.
later.
Yes, me too. This has been going on for 2 hours now, and it's just the same old thing over and over again. What about this and what about that? So good to see you.
You too.
So, hang on, Matt. Does anybody else have any questions?
Question a bit.
Mikey, this is such a long call. It's much longer than I expected. So why don't we finish this off? You can take it home.
Yeah, I'd like to say that for any of you who still do have some lingering questions, whether here on Discord or watching this on YouTube or listening on the podcast, please feel free to give us a one-on-one call. We have a channel, a text channel here on Discord where you can put a day and time when you're free, and we'll link you up with a seasoned practitioner to talk the Dhamma. We really enjoy chatting about the Dhamma here and keeping our minds in the Dhamma. So, yeah, this has been a splendid call. Haven't seen a call this long in quite some time. So, take care, friends. Take it easy. Enjoy.
Yes. Thank you so much, all. So let's go ahead and finish this call now. If you want to continue, we've got one-on-one calls on the group. Thank you all.